And hello, everyone. How are you doing? It's Dave Bondi. Great to see all of you here. We have a live guest tonight. We haven't done that in quite a while. Last year when I had my show, I stopped doing live guests because we had a lot of technical issues, and sometimes I would get ghosted. But I'm not getting ghosted tonight. Our guest is here, Catherine. You're going to hear from her in just about 2 minutes. But I want to say hello, everyone. How are you doing? For those of you who don't know, my name is Dave Bondi. I'm an independent content creator. I left the mainstream media to go independent, and I do not have any big media above me telling me what to say anymore. So that's good news. We are live tonight on YouTube, on Twitch, on X, on Rumble, and on Locals. Thank you, everyone. And if you are able and willing to become a paid subscriber, whatever platform you're on, you should be able to do so by clicking the button there. And on Substack, if you would like to leave a comment, become a paid subscriber to leave a comment. It's less than $1 per week to help support my mission of independent journalism, because I left the mainstream media where I was making some pretty good money, but I just couldn't deal with it anymore. So tonight's story is very interesting, and it's happening in Michigan, but I'm sure it's happening across the country. And religion has come under attack across the United States. And actually, I was talking with a pastor about 1.5 years ago, and he told me, Christians, and this could go to any religion, but Christians, for example, have fought over the years, or many over the history of being attacked. Many wars have been fought over religion. So tonight, we're not talking about that specifically, but just want to talk about the topic of religion. Now, there's a story happening, Mott Community College in Flint. There are accusations, or there were, Mott Community College, the president of the college accused of proselytizing on campus. I think I pronounced that correctly. Usually I get it wrong. What does that mean? For those of you who don't know, proselytizing, I believe, and I may need to look up the definition here, but you know what? I'm going to look up the definition before I bring our guest in real quick. And I'm going to do that just so I make sure. I get mad. Some people might get mad at me if I say the wrong thing. So I want to get a definition for the word proselytizing, because it's a word. I know I believe it's promoting religion or pushing religion, but I want to get the definition of what it means exactly. It's a noun, the act of attempting to convert someone from one religious belief or opinion to another. Okay, I'm glad I looked it up. So it is actually the action of attempting to convert someone from one religion, belief, or opinion to another. So that is the definition of proselytizing. Okay, there. Our guest, stick with me. Catherine, I'm going to have you up in a minute. So she's smiling because she's waiting for us. But on the screen, I want to bring and show you right now and I'm going to have her explain a little bit. But on your screen right now is the president of Mott Community College, Shonda Richardson Snell. She was accused of proselytizing on campus. There was an event on campus involving a Native American speaker, and she asked, "Do you know Jesus?" And at this last meeting, well, there was a complaint against her, but she's been cleared of that. Now she's been accused of something else, trying to spread, I guess, religious literature on campus, something like that. We're going to get into that. So that's the basis of the story and the interview. No, Jordan, one of our guests on Locals is saying, no, that's not proselytizing is different from what you were thinking it is. So thank you, everyone. Yeah, if you have any questions in the comments, let me know, and I can try to ask our guest as well. But I'm going to bring her in right now. Let me get this off the screen. Catherine, thank you for being here.
Honored to be with you, Dave.
Thank you. I did interview her earlier, and I had horrible audio issues. So let me know, everyone watching, if there's any audio issues. Everything should be good. I'm glad I looked up the definition of that word, because I thought I knew what it was. And the definition is literally trying to convert someone. I didn't know that, so I should have looked that up earlier. I had no idea. So introduce yourself real quick, everyone. You are?
Sure. I'm Catherine Broussard. I'm the COO and executive director of a faith-based nonprofit, Salt and Light Global, and we work to preserve religious liberty and advance good governance here in Michigan, America, and around the world.
Okay. You being live with me now, we have comments. Someone just said in the comments, so basically the president was just expressing her beliefs, and I'm not going to say what he wrote, some person got their was upset about it. And that's what you're saying happened, right? It was just
She actually only asked questions. She asked 2 questions. She didn't even make a statement. And there certainly was no attempt to convert or to induce someone to change their beliefs. No
okay.
force, asking a question.
Yeah, let's go back. October, there was an event on campus. What
Mhm.
was the event again?
So the event was called the 33rd Annual Peace and Dignity Observance, a Sacred Ceremony. In other words, this was a religious event. And this religious event was, ironically enough, hosted by the college and funded by the college foundation. And so for those that were concerned about, using public funds or a public space to do something religious, it's exactly what the event was. It just happened to be a Native American religious event.
Yeah, and she asked him, what did she say according to everything I'm reading? Do you know Jesus?
She asked the Native American speaker after the ceremony, just to clarify, when he was talking about God and the creator, do you know Jesus? And he said yes. And she said, so, do you mean like the born again, you have a relationship with Jesus, God of the Bible, Jesus? And so she followed up and asked him to clarify that. Only asking the question, never made a statement to him one way or the other.
Okay. And then the event was over. And when do you know? And I've asked her to come on the show and talk. She can't right now. She's the president of the university. But obviously she's in the middle of this situation. And I do want to say, you don't represent her like legally in any way.
Nope.
You're an advocate for her and other people across the state and the country as well.
Yes, we definitely advocate for religious liberty.
Okay, gotcha. So where I lost my train of thought. In this situation, the event ended, everything was fine. When do you know? I don't know if you know the timeline. When were there issues brought up? Do we know?
As far as I know, it wasn't right away, but there were some people at the event that overheard this conversation that took offense, and they contacted this national organization to draft a complaint that then went to the board of trustees, and they did an investigation in November, December. They held a public hearing and special meeting about this just last week, and then tabled some of that business until this Monday night this week.
Yeah, in that meeting, it said the internal investigation found she did not violate First Amendment in her religious comments. That investigation was completed in December. The board did not release the full findings publicly, but legal counsel said it resulted in training to ensure future compliance. However, during the board meeting, Trustee Art Reyes, if I'm pronouncing it right, raised a new allegation that she may have distributed religious literature on campus. We don't know specifics, though, do we, about that?
I don't really know specifics about that. Again, that just came up Monday night, and I certainly don't have all the information. Don't want to rush to judgment, but I've heard from some of the legal minds working on this that this claim has as little merit as the first. That this really seems to be blown out of proportion and thoroughly protected by the First Amendment.
Yeah, and that's what I want to ask, because there's a lot of people watching right now. There's some comments I can bring up in just a minute here. We have, it was 60, 70, about a couple hundred people watching. In questions, anyone watching have any questions, let me know and we'll try to answer them for you. So basically what I asked you earlier is anyone, whether it be a teacher or a president, you do not check your religion at the door when you, obviously if I work, it doesn't matter if I work at McDonald's, if I'm a university president, I can't go and try to convert people, but I can still be who I am. I can still wear a cross. I can still pray when I eat. Those, right?
Absolutely. And working at McDonald's and being a university president or a public university president, public versus private, there's some different lanes there. But the First Amendment says that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion. And where it says Congress, we could really say any government entity. And then it goes on to say, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So, the government, even a public university, can't ask its employees to check their faith, that integral civil right, at the front door, because that would be prohibiting their free exercise of that right. And just as much as that establishment clause matters, that free exercise clause has equal weight in the Constitution, and both are protected by law. And there is not an inherent conflict between those.
Okay, and I apologize for the private sector. I mean, that's a whole other issue. But we're talking public employee, public.
Mhm.
It goes both ways at the public
Mhm.
job. The students, but also the people working there have the same protections.
Absolutely. You don't cease to become an American citizen just because you accept a government job. And American citizens have rights, including the right to the free exercise of their faith.
Yeah. And in this situation, we're not talking, the allegations were proselytizing. And
Mhm.
I looked up, and I'm glad I did. The definition of that word is attempting to convert someone from one religion. The
Mhm.
investigation found that not to be the case.
Mhm.
But then it was for her, excuse me, disappointing. Another allegation.
Mhm.
It does. I don't. Is she being targeted, or if
It
so, why? Why?
it definitely feels like she's being targeted. And I do want to add one other thing. Proselytizing or asking someone to, accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior is not illegal. That's still protected by the First Amendment. Just the question of, again, how that's being done, under which hat, personal or in that government entity. But setting that aside, why is she being targeted? It's really hard to say. Some feel like it's just because of her faith. And there certainly seems to be this perception in the culture that, all beliefs should be tolerated except Christianity. And it really has felt like that. There's actually a study that's been done over the last year. It's called Religious Liberty in the States. And Michigan is actually the 48th worst state in the nation for religious liberty right now. And there's this palpable thing in the culture that we're seeing pop up in school districts across the state, universities, government entities, where there's just real animosity towards faith, especially the Christian faith, and sometimes other faiths, really even being brought into the public. And faith is so important because it genuinely helps us to be better people, to live in civil society in a more effective way, to have stronger, healthier communities. We don't want to shut the values of faith out of the public square when we really think about that. And it's a very dangerous sentiment that's growing.
One of our longtime followers, Scott Stillwell, said, just because someone doesn't like my faith in God and Christ doesn't mean I can't say something like, God bless you, or I'll pray for you. That's what a comment just came in.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's totally permitted.
Yeah. So you've talked to her, and in due time, I'd love to have her on to talk about this. How's she doing? You said she's a strong woman, strong individual.
She's a very strong Christian and very confident in her faith. And I know she's very passionate about Mott Community College, about all the good things happening there. I know she really feels called to this work, and it seems that the faculty love her, the students love her. I've had the opportunity to talk with several people in those categories, and they really do love and appreciate her. And I know that seems to be a mutual thing. She truly cares and puts her heart and soul into this work. But she is, again, very firm in her commitment to be exactly who she is, and to live out her faith sincerely, respectfully, and in an appropriate way.
Yeah. So, in somewhat distracting too, because Mott Community College, I understand, doing some pretty good things, actually, right?
Yeah, they really have been kind of almost a national showcase for some of their students, getting unprecedented opportunities for study abroad, international programs. They've been growing in enrollment and expanding the college offerings. And it really is exciting to see these good things happening. And instead of spending, school time and even financial resources and attorney fees on helping the students learn, they're spending time because they keep getting complaint after complaint after complaint, which are really, unfounded, have no basis, but each one has to go through due process. Each one eats up those public resources, and it's really doing a disservice to the taxpayers in Michigan that fund this public college.
Now, she wasn't able to come on and talk to me, and sometime I will, but I see she had a statement at the meeting where she said, I denied the allegations of proselytizing, saying her references weren't said with any coercion or mandatory participation. She said, I do not induce others to convert. In fact, it's quite the opposite. The Christian belief is that every individual has free will. So that's kind of the statement that she went on to say. kind of what you were saying as well. So,
Mhm.
I mean, every single person has that right if what she's
Mhm.
saying to do like she did, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And when you talk to her coworkers, and the faculty at the college, she's very careful to, maybe she sees someone that she feels needs prayer. She's going to seek them out, off campus or in her personal life. She keeps a lot of really strong boundaries with regard to being, sensitive to other people and where they're at. But again, it doesn't mean that she is in any way less of an American citizen, less entitled to those First Amendment rights than anyone else. But she goes above and beyond what the law permits her to do out of respect for others, really to meet them where they are, to love them as Christ calls her to love, and again, to respect that free choice as she mentions.
Okay. And I will keep everyone updated on this case. I'll bring you back on, or I'll have her on. But zooming out, not even about this case specifically, but like I said before I brought you in, I talked to a pastor about a year and a half ago, and I'm a Christian, and he said it feels like the Christians, other religious, have been under attack. Wars have been fought over religion. But does it feel like, what's your take on what you're hearing, not only in Michigan, but across the country when it comes to religious liberty? What's your take on where we are as a society?
I think religious liberty really is at stake right now. It really is under attack. When you look at the US Constitution, the first protection in the Bill of Rights is religious liberty. That's the very first thing in the First Amendment. When you go to our state of Michigan civil rights law, it says that it lists everything, and religion, again, is the first protected class. But when we think about why this is under attack, our Michigan Constitution also says religion, morality, and knowledge being necessary for the happiness of mankind, the means of education shall forever be encouraged. Religion, morality, and knowledge. And we look at those three things, and there's almost this almost secular religion saying that there can be no union between traditional religion and knowledge, academia, that these two are really at odds with each other. But also, as a Christian, I would say that God doesn't call us to an unreasonable faith. He calls us to love him with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. And when we do that, amazing things happen in our culture and society. And this really is a time to understand, yes, there's an attack going, but it's our time to stand as Christians. We need to know what's right, to do what's right, and to be bold in our faith, because it is really where the answers start.
Last question, and it's something that I don't know how long ago this happened, but it was a public school, I think Washington, a football coach, after the game, he went on the field and he would pray, and then team players would come and pray with him. That was a case. Did that go to the Supreme Court, right?
It did. Salt Lake Global actually filed the brief with the Supreme
Oh,
Court
really?
in that case. We were a part of that case, and representing an NFL Hall of Famer that sided with the coach. And we were incredibly pleased with the outcome of the Supreme Court. That was the case of Kennedy versus Bremerton. The coach, Joe Kennedy, was a paid employee of the public school, would go out after every game, pray on the football field out loud, and other students would come and join him voluntarily. And the U.S. Supreme Court actually ruled in that case that Mr. Kennedy, that his private religious speech was protected by the First Amendment. And they went on to say that respect for religious expression is indispensable to life in a free and diverse republic. In other words, it is the cornerstone of what makes America America, and it's fundamentally protected. And so that was a huge victory for religious liberty. And the same for Mott.
And that it would be different if he said, okay, all 35 of my players, you must come and pray with me. That's a different thing. That's not what he did, though. He
voluntary.
Others join him. So that's an example right there. For those of you watching may not know that he did not have to check his religion at the door. Who he was, he won a game, he lost a game, whatever. He went out by himself on the field. He prayed. Others followed him, not because they were told to, just because they wanted to.
Yep. And it ended up, the school had to pay damages and all kinds of things. And this also reversed a really important legal precedent called the Lemon Test. We asked the Supreme Court to overturn the Lemon Test that used to say that for someone to exercise their faith in the public square, that you had to have a secular reason to do so. And we asked the court to look at that, according to the language of the Constitution, that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. And they said, we don't see this lemon test in there. It's not part of that language. And the Supreme Court actually overturned that. So we're really, seeing the Supreme Court not just uphold religious liberty, but restore the founders' level of true, unfettered religious liberty, really respecting faith in the public square, even for public employees right now. And that's an incredible thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming on because you're also educating a lot of us, and not everyone is in depth into policy as myself or you, and some may not. I've heard of that case, but this case as well. But the bad thing is now she has been, some would say her name has been drugged through all of this when her goal is just to make Mott Community College an amazing place.
Absolutely.
And now, like I said, some are saying it's distracting, something that it doesn't need to be, really.
I think the hope is just that, to borrow from the book of Genesis, what man intends for evil, that God would turn it for good. I know that to be President Snell's heart from talking with her, is that somehow God will bring good from this. And if it encourages other Americans to stand up, to be bold for such a time as this, to walk out their faith and to lead others in that, then I think that's mission accomplished right there.
So don't be afraid to stand up, because a lot of times, whether it not be this issue or with education, with a lot of stuff going on with education, parents, they're starting to get better, but many of them are afraid to go to meetings and speak up, or they're afraid to voice. This will be the really last question. What do you say to parents, to anyone who they want to speak up, but they feel as if they'll be persecuted or called this or that? How do you encourage? Because you may have talked to parents before. What do you say to them to not convince them, but let them know it's okay to speak up?
I will say, I'm reminded of the words of Pastor Dietrich Bonhoeffer from the World War II era. He was a pastor in Nazi-occupied Germany who resisted what they were doing and said, this is not right. And he said this to those who were afraid to stand up. He said, man, I'm blanking on that real quick. He said that silence in the face of evil is itself evil. God will not hold us guiltless if we remain silent. And so, he said, not to speak is to speak. If we don't use our voice, especially when we talk about people harming innocent children, whether they're your kids or not, if we choose to remain on the sidelines and remain silent, we cannot expect God to hold us guiltless. When he shows us right and wrong, we have a choice. Either we do right in obedience to him and leave the results up to him. We trust God with everything and we walk in courage because that's what he calls us to do. Or we choose fear and we choose rebellion to God's word. And the choice really is that simple.
Yeah, and I think it is getting better. COVID opened up a lot of eyes on multiple things. I think more and more people are standing up, which is a good thing.
Can I say one last thing? I was so thrilled. I've attended the last 2 meetings of Mott Community College Board of Education. I was thrilled to see the public input, the church, and just the diversity of the community standing with President Snell overwhelmingly. Way more people with her than those against her, both times in inner city Flint. If that doesn't give you hope for Michigan and hope for this nation, that people are waking up and willing to stand up, speak up, and be counted, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, and people who may not necessarily share her religious beliefs or who share no religious beliefs whatsoever, they support the right to have that belief.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay. Thank you for taking the time. I'm sorry I messed up earlier when we were recording, but you did great, and I'll have you back on again. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you so much. My pleasure. God bless.
Okay. Have a good night. You too.
You too. Bye.
Wow. Great interview right there, everybody. Let me bring myself back up on the screen here. Yeah, that was Catherine. So what do you think about this? Let's go into discussion. Scott says, my guest mentioned Bonhoeffer. There's an amazing movie on the Angel Studios app that dramatizes his life. If you have Angel, I urge you to watch the film. I didn't know that. If you're watching on Substack, please click where it says comment to become a paid subscriber. I urge you to. Someone on YouTube, PO1655, we are in the end of times. A lot of people always say that. We're in the end times. 100 years ago, people said we were in the end times. We won't know till the end times until we're in the end times, I think. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a priest. I don't know. I'm not an expert in religion. But I want to know what all of you thought about our show tonight and our guest. I wasn't able to interview the president of the University of Mock Community College, but she was accused of trying to convert people to being a Christian, apparently. And the board found that there was no evidence of that. And now she's being investigated again for passing religious literature or information around. I want to know what you think in the comments. Let me know, everybody. The Chosen is an amazing series, says Sissy. Okay. Just reading some of your comments right now. Her passion for her belief may be a stumbling block in today's godless society, but she'll be rewarded when she enters the kingdom of God, according to Scott, one of our commenters there. Thank you, Scott. It was great. Thank you for that. By the way, for those of you who don't know, moving on now, I was in Washington, D.C. over the last few days. I was in Washington, D.C., and I was covering a Supreme Court case. And a lot of you may know this case. I had the attorney on Keeping It Real with Dave Bondi, Phil Ellison from Saginaw. There is a major Supreme Court case. I was at the Supreme Court yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I flew in last night. I got back home. I was at the Supreme Court. I posted a video of it. Many of you have probably seen this on all of my platforms. But this is a big case involving foreclosures. And I'm going to give you a little summary right here of what this case is about. Hold on, everybody. Sometimes I got to have my notes with me because I'm not a lawyer. The U.S. Supreme Court heard the case Pung versus Isabella County. This is a case over whether a Michigan county, Isabella County, violated the Constitution by seizing and selling a family's home for over $2,200 in unpaid taxes and keeping the proceeds. The family argues the government took far more than it was owed and should have returned the remaining equity. The court will decide if that practice violates the Fifth Amendment's takings clause. What do you think about this? Most people that I'm talking to are siding for the family and not Isabella County, obviously. The Supreme Court's most likely going to have a decision. They're going to have a decision on this issue, and that will be coming up probably in May or June. That's when the court usually issues things like this. It might be earlier, but anyway, I was in Washington, D.C. Very interesting. Actually, Monday I was in Nashville, Tennessee. Tuesday I was in Washington, D.C. Monday, Tuesday I was in Nashville, and now I'm back here. I'm back here in Michigan, reporting all the good news for you. And for all of you who are paid subscribers, thank you. I am able to do a lot of my reporting because of your help. I really appreciate it. So let me check the headlines real quick to make sure I'm not missing anything. I hope you enjoyed our interview. Our interview was a live interview tonight. It wasn't on tape. Let's see what we have on here. CNN. Wow, CNN is about to be possibly taken over by David Ellison. Warner Brothers, Paramount Skydance is poised to acquire Warner Brothers and potentially CNN. So CNN could be sold to a company owned by David Ellison. He is more on the conservative side. Some would say a Trump supporter. So that news just coming out moments ago. Very, very interesting. Hello, Nutsy McGee. How are you doing? Hello, Scott. Everyone watching. Yeah, leave a comment. Do you have any questions for me? Let me know in the comments, and I'll give you. I'll tell you my piece. Tell you what I'm thinking. Just saying here. Oh, I know what I want to talk about. Have any of you heard the mayor of Grand Rapids, Michigan? What he has been saying? I posted this on my other platforms, and I've actually posted it here if you're watching on this platform. The mayor of Grand Rapids, he has clarified his statements, but he said that you should be ashamed to own a gun. He also said that canines, police dogs, there was a canine police dog. I guess canine dog is the same thing. Canine police officer in Grand Rapids should be put down because the dog was involved in taking down a suspect, and the mayor wasn't happy with the way that went down. I want to bring up the video instead of me telling you about it. I'm going to play it for you. The mayor of Grand Rapids, Michigan. His name is David LeGrand. This is him. This is him right here. So he was speaking last Monday night. Or was it last Monday night? I think it was last week. Yeah, last week, I believe, at a public forum. And he was talking about crime. And he started talking about guns. He doesn't think that you should have a gun. So let's listen to what he had to say.
I'm sorry, that's going to be the soundbite of the night, and the NRA is going to be the soundbite of the night, and I'm sorry, that's going to be the soundbite of the night, and the NRA is going to be mad at me. Nobody gardens with a gun, right? Nobody changes their tire with a gun. What they're for is killing human beings, and so it's really hard. I think as a community, we have to start having some shaming around gun possession.
So he just said right there that there should be shaming for people who own guns. What do you think about that? He said, if you own a gun, you should be shamed publicly. Let me keep playing this.
I think if you've got a gun, you should be ashamed of yourself.
He said it again right there. If you own a gun, you should be ashamed of yourself. A lot of people with some choice words right now in the comments. Rebecca just says he should be ashamed. This is Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca. How are you doing? Thank you for being here. Let me go on and keep playing this.
I really do. Now, I'm sorry, that's going to be the soundbite of the night, and the NRA is going to be mad at me.
Well, the NRA was mad. The NRA has posted about this, and this is a story that actually has now gone viral.
I get that we got a Second Amendment. I get it. But, you also should be ashamed of yourself if you smoke. That's not against the law. I think if you own a gun, you should be ashamed of yourself, and you should really do some self-reflection. And I think that I just see so much more harm, just like cigarettes. I see so much more harm done than benefit.
Now, he's entitled his opinion. Absolutely. He's entitled his opinion. And I'm going to say that his opinion to me is out there. I know a lot of great gun owners. There are bad people who do bad things with weapons. But anyway, that story has just, as they say, blown up lately. That is it's finally the media in Grand Rapids is now covering that story. Earlier this week, it was going viral. I posted it. A lot of different people on social media posted it, and not just those on the right. My monitor turned off here. Hold on. Oh, I lost my screen back there, everybody. And not just those on the right, those on the left and those in the middle were also upset because it's not just Republicans who own firearms, weapon. It's everybody. A lot of people do. And the majority of people who own those weapons are good people who take care of them. So he says, though, you should be shamed if you don't. George just asked me, do you know anything about the house fire that killed 2 people in Fenton Township this morning? George, I do not. I will look into that for you. Let me look real quick. We have someone on our Substack asking me about a fire that happened in Fenton this morning. I'm trying to see if I learned any more about that. I do not know anything about that. I will look into it, though. I will. Vicky says his opinion on guns are against my constitutional rights. He shouldn't hold an office position. Vicky, I agree with you. I agree with you, Vicky. You have a constitutional right, but he wants you to be ashamed. He wants you to be ashamed. George says, Judge Much. I'm not sure if you're talking about me, George. I apologize. You might have been talking about the man. I'm trying to keep up to date on all the comments. We're live on 6 or 7 platforms right now, so trying to keep up to date on all the comments. So I apologize if I missed some of the comments. But before I let you go, I wanted to let you know I am here in Michigan. A lot of my followers are in Michigan, and I appreciate that. I have offered to interview every candidate for the governor of Michigan, the Democrats, the Republicans, and the independents. I have all but one of the Republican candidates left to interview, and his name is Perry Johnson. I will be interviewing Perry Johnson tomorrow. I will be putting that interview out tomorrow night. So that means I will have interviewed all of the candidates for governor on the Republican side. Now, I have reached out to Jocelyn Benson. She is running as a Democrat. I have reached out to Chris Swanson, the Genesee County Sheriff. He is running as a Democrat. And I have reached out to Mike Duggan. Duggan's people they've got back with me. So far, I have not confirmed an interview with Duggan, but Chris Swanson and Jocelyn Benson, they have not gotten back to me whether or not they will be doing an interview whatsoever. So I have offered interviews to everyone because I believe everyone deserves a voice. I've offered Democrats, Republicans, and independents. I think all of them deserve to have their voices heard. I can't make them do an interview. So just letting everyone know, Chris Swanson, Jocelyn Benson, and Mike Duggan so far have not agreed to do an interview. Duggan's spokesperson did reach out to me. So I'm trying to finalize. Hopefully I can finalize something with Mike Duggan. He's the independent running in the race. And there was, for those of you who don't know, there was a poll that came out this past week that basically has the Michigan governor's race in a three-way tie. It has Jocelyn Benson, it's Mike Duggan, and John James at a three-way tie. But we are early, though. There are a lot of good people on all sides running for governor. And we are in February right now. We're almost in March. The primaries, I believe, are in August. The election is in November, so we still have some ways to go. But I know it's going to be a very, very busy year. Vicky with another comment from YouTube. She said, the independent will only take votes away from the Republicans. Never in history has a split ticket won. Well, in this situation, there are some people who are saying that Mike Duggan might take away votes from the Democrats because he was the mayor of Detroit. Detroit is a heavy Democratic town, so maybe he takes away vote. I don't know. I'm not a political analyst. I'm not an expert in policy when it comes to how this is all going to unfold. And many times when we think we know how it's all going to unfold, it never unfolds the way we think it will. So we're just going to have to see. But anyway, tomorrow night, Perry Johnson will be on a special edition of Keeping It Real. I will be posting that on my Substack and my locals community. You will only be able to see it right there. So I appreciate everyone for joining me. I hope you appreciate it. I hope you like tonight's show. For those of you who are watching right now, and thank you for being here, Saturday night, I have a show that is behind a paywall. 95% of all the content I put out is free for everybody. I urge you to become a paid subscriber to help me to financially support what I'm doing. I have lots of equipment. I travel. I file Freedom of Information requests. I spend a lot of time on this work for all of you because I love what I do. And I appreciate the people who are a paid subscriber to support me. Now, on Saturday night, paid subscribers get a special treat. My wife and I, her name is Katie. She's an amazing woman, amazing mother who has held this family together. And she goes live with me on Saturday nights, some Friday nights, mostly Saturdays. And she is all about keeping it real. And she comes on here and she talks about whatever she wants to talk about. She is not a journalist, so she can get political as she wants. She has every right to do so. Before I go, I want to bring up a picture of our dog. We have a new dog named Snoopy. And Snoopy, yes, he did, Vicky. He did. And he knew when he did that he was going to run for governor. Okay, I want to bring a picture on the screen right now. Take a look at the picture on the left. The picture on the left is our puppy Snoopy. Look at the dog on the right. Is that the same dog? It is the same dog. We had Snoopy groomed today by Christie's Dog Days in Birch Run, Michigan. So if anyone needs to have their dog groomed, Christie's Dog Days in Birch Run, Michigan. They do an amazing job. But take a look. That is a different dog. That is not the same dog right there, everybody. That is Snoopy the dog. Two different pictures of, thank you, George. I appreciate that. Two different pictures. Same dog, though. Totally different looking. Anyway, I want to say goodnight to all of you. Coming up on Sunday night, I'm going to try to have Phil Ellison on the show. He was the lawyer involved in that Supreme Court case that I was at yesterday at the United States Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. I'm going to bring him back on. I believe he'll be available. And he's going to be talking about what it was like arguing that case at the Supreme Court and what implications it could have if the Supreme Court sides with him and then side. My battery's running low, it says back there, so I better get going. Okay, everybody, I'm going to let you go. I will see you once again on Saturday night. If you are a paid subscriber, I encourage you. I got everything going off here. Jeez. I encourage you to become a paid subscriber to support what I'm doing. Just hit the button on the screen. If you're watching on X right now, if you're watching on X, go to my profile. If you're watching on X, go to my profile and you can hit the subscribe button. Doing that will be able to help support what I'm doing. I really appreciate it. You can quit at any time. If you end up not liking me, that's cool. No big deal. Okay, everyone. Thank you, Vicky. I appreciate it. Thank you, George, and everyone else who's watching on whatever platform you're watching on. Thank you, everyone. Your support, it means the world to me. Have a great night, everybody. Talk to you later. Amen.